Hey everybody, so in this video I'm going to show you guys how to do 1-point perspective. So we're going to need paper, a pencil, and a ruler. So remember, when you're working with perspective, you really want to make sure you have that ruler so that all of your lines are nice and straight. Okay, again we're doing 1-point perspective, so that means we're only going to have 1 point. So whenever we're working with perspective drawings, the first thing we need to do is the horizon line. So remember, horizon line goes from left to right on your paper, and it can be anywhere along the edge of your paper, the right side and the left side. Make sure you use a ruler so it's nice and straight. And then also make sure that when you trace your line, that your ruler doesn't shift. So you want to make sure you have enough pressure and that your hand is in the center of your ruler. So that way when you put pressure, when you draw your line, it doesn't move your ruler. Okay, so now that we have our horizon line, we're going to make our 1 point. Remember, it's only 1. So I'm putting mine here on the center of my horizon line. When working with 1-point perspective, you can put that point anywhere along that horizon line as long as you have just the 1 point. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to draw a shape. Usually 1-point perspective is done with landscapes or cityscapes. So I'm going to start off easy and I'm going to do a square. So this shape that I drew is actually the surface of my shape. And we want to make sure that our shape kind of disappears into this 1 point. So I'm going to circle all of my corners of my shape just so that way I remember what I need to connect to that point. So with your ruler, and I stress that you use your ruler, you connect each of those corners to your 1 point. Remember, this is your vanishing point, so it's a 1-point perspective. So that means all of your objects in your drawing are going to technically vanish into that point. And so once I draw all of these lines, you're going to be able to see, and it kind of almost looks like a never-ending building or wall or train. Okay, so now that we have all of our corners, I'm going to go ahead, and if you notice, we've got the 4 lines. This is the face of my shape. So everything that is inside the face of the shape, technically we won't be able to see it because it's behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and erase it. Okay, and since I erased this part of the line, I'm going to finish erasing the rest of the line. Remember, these are your perspective lines. They show that 1-point perspective. Okay, so now I'm going to use this side of my shape and I'm going to draw a parallel line. Alright, we want it to shift slightly to the left, so I'm going to draw a parallel line as best as I can, but since you guys have your rulers, you can go ahead and use your rulers. Remember, try to make it straight. It has to be parallel. Don't have it curved or angled in any way, otherwise your shape's not going to look right. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing to the top of my shape. I'm going to draw a parallel line. Again, try to keep it within the space of those 2 perspective lines. So if you drew the 2 lines, it's got to go in between. Your parallel line goes in between. Okay, and then the rest of these perspective lines that are here on the outside of our now 3D shape, we're just going to go ahead and erase them. So remember, if it is a 3-dimensional shape, it's actually known as a form. So now we have our 3-dimensional shape, our form. So here is the front side of our form, the top side, and then of course the side, the right side, left side. Okay, I went ahead and I kind of shaded it in just a little bit because it was a little tough to see, but once you see that with the little bit of shading, you can kind of really see how 3-dimensional it looks. So I'm going to do another one here on the other side, except this time I'm going to make a rectangle, and the rectangle is actually going to go above my horizon line. And so this one I kind of sped it up so that way the video would be a little bit shorter. But same thing as we did with our first one, we're going to highlight or circle our little corners so we know which ones to connect to our vanishing point or our point. And then we're going to connect them. I suggest that when you're using your ruler to make these lines, that you draw fairly light so that way you can erase them better. So if you notice mine, I had to draw a little bit harder so that way everyone could see my lines, but it was very hard to erase them. They wouldn't completely erase. And so when you do your perspective drawings, you want to make sure that they can be erased. Okay? So here I'm just erasing those perspective lines that are within or on the inside of the faces of my shape. Then I'm drawing my parallel line here to the right, erasing the inside of that face. And then of course continuing and erasing the rest of that perspective line. And then of course I went ahead and I added the shading there on the right side. And then of course here on the front. Okay, so something a little bit different about this second shape is that the shape goes above my horizon line. So that means I cannot see the top surface of this form, of this shape. Whereas on the first one, we can see the top surface. So just keep that in mind. If it goes above the horizon line, we don't see the top. If it goes below, we do. Also keep in mind that when you do perspective drawings, that all of your lines, all of the edges, all the sides of your objects will vanish into that vanishing point. So like this video, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching everybody. Enjoy!